Oh boy. Marc Lamont Hill has been on Piers Morgan's show for quite some time. I mean, it's not like it's his first time appearing on his show. But I saw Piers Morgan do something in this recent panel with Marc Lamont Hill that I felt was a new low. It leads some of us to wondering if this show is not necessarily just a debate format anymore, but if this show's main goal is to ignite a fire in people and to piss people off. If the Piers Morgan show has basically become the Jerry Springer for politics. You see, one thing about this show in particular is that it has become very popular, Piers Morgan show, and it's because of the feuds that happen on the show back and forth between people, between the guests. But one of the things that I've noticed is that it's almost gotten to the point now where it seems like in order to continue the viewership and the excitement, there has to be something controversial or some outrageous statement or remark that a panelist makes on the show. I think it's gotten to the point now where the show relies on that. So if the panelists aren't making it enough outrageous and over the top, Piers can add to that. And he definitely did in this conversation with Marc Lamont Hill. Let's get into it. We're going to start with this part here.
Here's the thing. White people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as Black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people.
Pause. So this woman, I guess, identified on the show as a racist. So first of all, she's already wrong. Black people do not receive preferential treatment when it comes to getting jobs. White women do. When you look at minorities, when it comes to employment, white women benefit from that more because white women, like this woman right here, is also a minority. Already wrong. Okay, so this woman is benefiting from the same system that she is complaining about Black people benefiting from, and she benefits from it more than I do because she's a white woman. She's ahead of me. Then she brings up the college thing. Oh, they get special preferential treatment when it comes to college. No. Don't forget, it was just a couple years ago I covered this, that the Supreme Court outlawed affirmative action for college admissions. What is she talking about? Let's continue.
People, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society.
She has no idea what she's talking about. I got to add something here too, because I don't think a lot of people realize this as well. Notice how she said our cities. White people cities. As if nobody else lives in those cities but white people. Do you see how she's trying to take the ownership of the cities? She doesn't even know what systemic means. Okay, how are you having issues, or how are you targeted with systemic issues when you are not at the bottom of the ladder, Miss Ma'am? I went through a whole study about this before. On this show, we did a deep dive into Glorious Dynam, and I explained it very clear to you guys that the feminist movement hurt the civil rights movement for Black people. Yes, it did, because it included white women as a minority. This woman benefited from the minority system. Let's go on.
Is with white unity. We don't see white unity on.
Hang on. Okay, but hang on. Sorry, just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you've just said. This is a disgusting, racist woman who repeatedly spews the M-word, first at a young child, and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity, does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. So I don't understand why what you've just said to me bears any relation to white unity or anything that you've just said. She's just a racist. End, isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
it is about her
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in a country.
That's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
Mm-hmm. I do quite frequently.
You use the M-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
If you use the M-word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word? When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable human being?
I guess so. I don't really care. Why are we not talking about Shiloh Hendricks? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very quickly to your own racism, which explains why you've supported her in public and why you've got all these views.
Yeah, the conversation wasn't even about systemic racism. The conversation was about the GoFundMe for Shiloh Hendricks versus the GoFundMe for Carmelo, and that's what the conversation was about. She took it there, though.
See no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist, and you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying, actually, for most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
Well, shame on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should be.
What do you mean your country?
So here we go. See what I was saying when she said our cities and our country? White women being discriminated against? Honey, you're a minority. You're a minority too. Who benefited from DEI? White women. Not black men, not black women, white women at the top. They are at the top. They benefited the most from DEI. Now, she don't want to say that. And honestly, I don't think she's smart enough or intelligent enough to know that. But even if you put the numbers in front of her, she wouldn't want to admit it because it would crush her whole argument.
Because I'm white and my
there are no black people in American history. Is that what you're saying? That they've all just landed in America, invading your white country? Is that your position?
Mm-hmm. Well, they were brought here technically.
My God, do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid. This is stupid and racist. And at some point, we have to ask ourselves: do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
I don't disagree, Mark. Listen, I didn't know she was going to say that. I don't disagree with you.
No. Yeah.
But let me pause here. Yeah, you didn't know that she was going to say that, but there have been a number of times that Piers Morgan has brought people on that show that have said some pretty nasty and racist and disgusting things about Palestinians. And maybe the first time they came on, he didn't know they were going to say that, but he continued to bring them on. Rabbi Shmuley, Alan Dershowitz, so come on. You bring them on because you want the controversy, because you want the views, you want the excitement, you're just as much a part of this. This is why I said, it's kind of become like the Jerry Springer of political media, because it's at first in the beginning, it was about debates and people were debating having some serious like back and forth. But then it kind of became known for who can make the most outlandish comments, and he can put it in the title, and everybody's like, oh, let's make it go viral or whatever. And it's just, so you're a part of it. Like, don't pretend like you have nothing to do with it. That's what the show is. That's what the show has become. This isn't even the worst of it, though. Where do you see what he says at the end?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think you knew ahead of time. I'm saying at this moment, someone who's saying technically black people brought up. No, technically Africans were stolen, enslaved, and they built this country. And the idea that you can justify calling a baby the N-word by saying that white people are losing the country is absurd. It's morally bankrupt, and it's honestly besides the point. I mean, all these these are just distractions from the fact that she wants to justify dehumanizing and even animalizing a small black child. It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah, I never said that. I never said that.
No, you may as well have done, because you're just an unashamed.
That's the implication of your
racist. Let me bring in Myron Gaines, because you've been smirking and laughing. What's
okay? Now we're gonna go to the Myron Gaines part, right? Now let me tell you something about this guy, okay? This guy, Myron Gaines, the guy right here in between Piers and Marc Lamont Hill. He is a part of this podcast called Fresh and Fit. It was part of like that manosphere, that type of thing. But he also spends a lot of time hating on Black Americans, calling us monkeys, all types of names, not just on his show, but also in Twitter Spaces, which I have seen myself. He is very, very, very nasty towards Black Americans. He says he's Sudanese. He says he's from Sudan. Some people said that he's actually Indian. I don't know, but I know he's not a Black American. And he has found a way to make money off of being a part of the African diaspora and shitting on Black Americans. It's outrage porn, basically, is what he's doing. So who do you think he's going to side with here? Let's bring it in.
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and, wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No, she admits she's a racist.
Well, let me
I'm not wagging a finger at anybody.
She's self-identified as a racist.
But Myron, with respect, Myron, I don't need to wag a finger when somebody says, yeah, I'm racist. I use the N-word against Black people. I don't care. That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly. Even you can't defend that, surely.
Everybody is racist to some degree. The reality is it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say, see, I think this Shiloh, Hendricks, and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organization. And what I mean by this is for decades, we've had Black people literally running around with Black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame.
So do you see what he does? This guy is basically, and by the way, for a while, he was lying, I guess, trying to pretend that he was a Black American. Black Americans, like, we know he not. Come on. Right? But you see what he's doing? He feeds right into the same white supremacist talking points. I don't know how Mark sat through this.
The system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal. Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal. A lot of these people are criminals, and what ends up happening is they challenge the police officer, they get into a physical altercation, things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result. When in reality, it's not the police killing Black people, it's Black people killing Black people. And if you want to talk about Black on white violence, Black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So
do you see the white supremacist talking points that he has? He is here defending this woman who said she was a racist, who doesn't give 2 craps about him, because that's what he's paid to do. His whole spiel, it's an act. This guy has been outed in Twitter Spaces so many times by other people like Tariq Nasheed and all of them. They've exposed this guy over and over again. So This is a problem. This is a problem. And when people ask, well, why is it that all of us can't come together from the diaspora? I would say Black Americans have tried to do that over the years, but Myron Gaines isn't alone. He's not the only person out there talking this way. He's the one that's saying it publicly on camera. Others have said it as well. Now, does that mean everybody's like that? No, it doesn't. But what I'm saying is this guy makes money by doing that. He is willing to throw other people that are a part of that diaspora under the bus for a check. That's not an ally. That's an opportunist. Let's go on a little bit more.
So this whole systemic racism or police brutality or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America's had enough of it, and the chickens have come to roost. Now,
pause. First of all, Black people are not privileged because Black people as a group are not in power. We have no power in this country as a group of people. We don't. So there's that. You see where he's going with this? Two, regardless of how Black you are, if you were to sit up there and call it, I know for a fact for me, if anybody at my previous employers would have called a white person that word, they would have been fired. So for him to sit up here and say, no, there's no accountability, no repercussions, that is a lie. Wait till we get to the Mark part.
Look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I saying that's great? No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades since the Obama era, we've had to have BLM and liberalism shoved down our throats. And quite frankly, we're all tired of it.
Right. But just to be clear, you would have no problem with one member of this panel openly saying she uses the N word at Black people with impunity and is proud of being a racist. You have no problem with that.
My worldview on the protection of the First Amendment and freedom of speech overrides my personal feelings. She has the right to say
That's fine. You can support the First Amendment, but you can also have a personal view about what she said.
My feelings are irrelevant. The Constitution is the Constitution. That's what matters.
Oh, that's fascinating. Hold on. So when it comes to chastising Black Americans about their behavior, about calling white people crackers, as you say, about their moral claims about the racist system, you can levy a judgment against Black Americans for all the things they do. But when it comes to this woman saying the N-word and this other woman endorsing it and saying that she herself uses the N-word, now all of a sudden we can only talk about the Constitution and the legal right. We can't offer any moral judgment against it. That's disingenuous. And it's as the only Black American up here, that's quite frustrating to hear.
Here's the thing. If you want to be soft and get offended by that, that's your fucking problem, not mine.
Let me ask Ricky. Ricky,
this isn't about being soft any more than when you were desperately saving these white people.
Hold on. This sensitive nature that you have is precisely why we have this problem.
It's not about being sensitive. It's about I didn't articulate. Hold on. Let me finish, Myron. Let me speak and then I'll let you respond. Myron, sure. I didn't articulate any sensitivity here. What I said, in the same way that you levied a judgment against Black people, I'm levying one against the claims you're making. I'm no more sensitive than you were when you made your claim. I'm simply saying I disagree with you. And to immediately jump to you're being sensitive is just a distraction. I'm making an argument here. Just respond to my argument.
If you're struggling with,
we'll pause that part right there. So notice Marc Lamont Hill, he came in there and was like, no. And I gotta say something as we go to this last part. You know, I remember when I was on Marc Lamont Hill's show and he brought up the part about Kamala Harris, people saying that she's not Black and da-da-da. And I explained to him, this is before the election, I explained to him when people say that, they're saying she's not a Black American. And he's like, but she is Black and da-da-da. And I said, Mark, you have to understand that other groups in this country do delineate, right? And so you can't sit up there and call someone who's Korean Chinese. They'll correct you and say that they're not, Chinese, etc. Other groups do this all the time. And there does need to be that same grace spared to those who are Black Americans. And what I noticed from this conversation, and I think Mark covered this on his channel as well, is that one of the things that he brings up is about Myron Gaines. He's like, well, notice Mark said there, he said, I'm the only Black American on this panel. This is what I was trying to explain. So I think it's great that he sees that now, but this is exactly the point that I was trying to get across. Myron Gaines here made it very, very clear that he is not us. He made it very clear that we are a problem. And he's continued to make it clear that he feels Black Americans are a problem. So there is that separation when people decide to do it. And I think what you're hearing other people say, when you're hearing people like Tariq Nasheed say, again, I may not agree with everything, but what you're hearing people like Tariq Nasheed say is that Black Americans need to be able to do that too. This guy sat right there and just disrespected, and he's done it over and over again. I'm telling you, like, that is his stick. I've seen this guy talk so badly about Black women, Black American women, Black American men, using racist, white racist terms against Black Americans. So when other people want to do that, they do that. And that's what I was trying to get across to Mark when we had that conversation last year. This part right here is where Piers goes wild.
Natural human instinct. Like, we are literally designed to want to be in communities and want to be a part of a set of community because it ensures our survival. It's been that way since the beginning of time. So the thing is that people are typically going to align with people that share similar features. And that's why we have the tribalism we have going on right now. So the problem is it's not going to go anywhere. I think the problem is that we've had this penting up for literally decades, and this has been a response to it. You have people that are coming out and supporting someone who you guys might deem as a terrible racist, but I think it's also very important to understand how we got here, because if we're going to look at the smaller problem, we can't look at the bigger problem, and it's what I said before, unchecked systemic.
All right, Marc Lamont Hill.
So he can, and what they're bleeping the N-word because he was throwing around the N-word, right? You see, he want to use like Black slang and language and all that kind of stuff, but he still want to let you know he not one of us, but he want to be able to use our culture and our language, which I don't even say the N-word, when it benefits him to do so. He can sit up there and say, let me tell you how we got here to defend the racist white woman, but he's not willing to listen to people when they try to tell you, let me explain to you how Black Americans got to where we are. This part.
Last words on this.
This repeated use of the word, I think, first of all, I want to just register that as offensive, particularly as someone who doesn't identify as a member of that community and who is not, right? I think that's incredibly
I'm the definition of African American.
See what I mean? This is now I see Marcus saying this. Know what he said? He said someone who is not a member of that community. You see what I'm saying? So this is what I tried to tell him last year.
I'm the definition of African American.
And troublesome, and to as a Sudanese American or an outsider who's using African American in a very technical term, the same way that Elon Musk is an African American, I think it is a bit disingenuous. But the bigger issue here, I think, is that, you know, this idea of equating of one side to the other side often loses track of this issue of power. To use his example, when Black people stand up and say, hey, let's build our own stuff. Hey, let's have a Black power movement. That is not the same as a white power. I'll let you speak uninterrupted. Let me finish, please, my Sudanese brother. So when a Black person says, hey, let's preserve our culture, I have no problem with Italians or Irish people or anyone else saying let's preserve our culture. But when we don't talk about ethnicity, but actual race, and when white people say let's preserve whiteness, it's an exclusionary practice. It's about preserving laws and practices and tactics that do harm to other people. A Black power movement was about opening stores and building businesses. A white power movement was a white power movement was about something very, 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 very different. A white power movement who included lynchings and included Ku Klux Klan, etc. So let's not pretend that these are opposite sides of the same coin. When white people say, let's save our country, and even using language of our country, when Black people built this thing, when you say that, you're talking about forcing people out of the country. You're talking about laws that discriminate. You're talking about doing harm to people. Let's not pretend these are the same thing, just like these GoFundMe campaigns are not the same thing. I'm okay if everybody gets out of the GoFundMe industrial complex. I'd love that. But let's not pretend that supporting someone for a fair trial is the same thing as supporting a grown white woman berating and calling the N-word to a 5-year-old autistic Black child. And the fact that everyone in here can't be unanimous in condemning that says exactly how they're not the same.
I totally agree. I'm going to go to...
So Piers Morgan here says he totally agrees. And Mark, we're going to have to get you better Wi-Fi because I notice your picture is going a little blurry. But he says he totally agrees. But watch what he does after.
Lily Gaddis, and just ask you one more time. I mean, you've been so unashamedly proud of being a racist today, proud of using the N-word whenever you feel like it. You've had a bit of time to think about this. Is that how you want people to leave this panel debate, with thinking of you as a disgusting racist?
I don't really care what people think about me. As long as you care about what people think about you, you have no power and you lose your country. What I care about is freedom of speech. And if you're not allowed to say the most offensive things in this country, you do not have freedom of speech. I don't care what anybody says. So
you're allowed to say it, but it's not without consequence. That's the thing. You're allowed to say these things, but you can't get mad if there's consequence.
That's the main crux of this situation. That's what I care about with this situation. It is, we have lived for far too long in a country where you can have your life destroyed and people say, oh, she doesn't need this money. Her life's destroyed, by the way. She'll never be able to get another job. She's got children to have to support. And I don't want to live in a country where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, Black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly, and you will
well, go
not
on then,
have
say it. Say
you
the
will not have
go on,
free
say
speech.
go on, say the N word. Go on.
That part right there. Right? So do you see what Piers Morgan just did there? Some people saw that and they said, well, Piers was just trying to like press her buttons. Some people saw it and they said it's disrespectful for him to even entertain that with Marc Lamont Hill sitting there. I think Piers was trying to get a rise for ratings, for views. I think this is what I was saying before. I feel like this show, it just basically became like a Jerry Springer thing where, as before in the beginning, I felt like the conversations were a little bit more, I don't know, meaty, like it, and now it's just like, let's get the shock and awe that we can get from this. And so watch what Marc Lamont Hill says. I will say this as well, though. Mark, I feel like fell for the trap because this is exactly what they wanted to get Mark to do. Because once Mark lashed out the way that he's about to, that you're going to see, of course, all of like people like Matt, what's his name? Matt Walsh, all these like, you know, right wing people, all these, and the racists, they were like, oh my God, this person is completely unhinged, which is exactly what they want. See for yourself.
No. Don't invite. No. I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me the N-word because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here. You and one Uncle Tom on the left here, and asking her to say the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person and say, please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Piers. I understand what you're trying to do, but we already know she's racist, and I don't want to invite a racial harm to me.
I hear you, and I.
Notice how Myron Gaines and the racist white woman laughed when he lashed out, right? Now, I think that Mark was justified in his anger, but them laughing just goes to show that's what they wanted. They wanted him to get angry like that. They wanted him to get upset because then they can point to him and say, oh, look at him. He's losing control. He can't even handle himself and da-da-da, right? And to Mark's point, when he said, you would not sit up here, Piers, and tell someone to say, you know, a slur against Jewish people if a Jewish person was on that panel. And Mark is 100% right about that. He wouldn't. So why is it okay for Piers to do that to a Black person?
accept that, and we'll leave it there. Thank you all very much.
Mark did cover this on his show. On his show, he said that he didn't think that Piers was trying to do harm or, had ill will with that. I guess he has more faith in Piers than I do, because I just don't. I think Piers is doing what works for him, for views, for ratings, whatever, etc. I think he's doing what works for that, and he's trying to get the most outrageous comments that he can get and capture it as a soundbite. That's what I think Piers is doing. I would not give him as much credit as Marc Lamont Hill was willing to give him. I will say that much. But I'll also say this. I know some people said that Mark shouldn't have gone on there with those guests. From what I understand, people that go onto the Piers Morgan panels don't always know who's going to be on those panels. So he may not have even known who was going to be on there. So just keep that in mind. But you guys needed to see that. You needed to see like the ridiculousness that's out there. And to hear Mark say, well, Myron, you're not even a part of, like, you're not Black American. You're not a part of my culture. I'm glad Mark said that, because this is what I was trying to explain to him last year. And there's no shade. You guys know I love everybody. It doesn't matter to me what color you are, what race you are. And I have solidarity with all oppressed people. And at the same time, that being said, I tried to make it very clear that Kamala Harris was not a Black American. She can be, look, you be whatever you want to be, but please do not sit up there and try to say that you are from a lineage that you're not from. And that's important, because they have different experiences than those of us who are Black Americans have had in this country. And their struggles are different. And so I just don't want people to misunderstand that. I said the same thing with Barack Obama. Barack Obama is from a different lineage. He does not have the same type of history and struggle that Black Americans had in this country. And people need to understand that, because when you point to people like a Kamala Harris and a Barack Obama and you say, see, they did it, you guys can do it too. They are coming from different countries. They are coming from families who already had money to get them here in the first damn place. It is not the same struggle. And I think Mark had every right to say that. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.